So it's a little after 5:30. I'd like to call the November 14th, 2017 work session Milledgeville City Council to order. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Dr. Lee.
Here.
Ms. Walden.
Here.
Ms. Shinholster.
Here.
Mr. Reynolds. Mr. Mullins.
Here.
Mr. Chambers.
Here.
We do have a quorum. First item on the agenda tonight will be providing an update on the parking. I'm going to ask Hank Griffin to come up and give us an update as to the results of a few of these forums.
We had just wanted to quickly update y'all was where we are at this point in time. We had the 3 parking forums last week, 2 on Tuesday, 1 on Wednesday morning, and I have included in the notebook for tonight a copy of the exact presentation that was done at those forums. Some of you were able to join us and some were not, so I wanted to make sure everybody had the information that was presented at that forum or at those forums. I feel like the forums did exactly what we wanted to do. They and everybody brought their comments and their questions and their ideas to the table. Carly, as those questions and comments were being made, was writing quickly to make sure that they were all captured. She has transcribed those and brought those up, and those have been passed on to the staff and the city manager. Considered based on the comments that were made, making sure that we're, for those questions that we were not able to answer, getting answers to those questions and getting back in touch with those people. So that's where we are at this point in time. I anticipate that this will be a topic of discussion at future meetings, even in this calendar year, based on those comments and based on other things that staff looks at in terms of potential streets and even potential implementation. But really nothing new to report to you tonight other than I think the forums went well. We appreciate everybody coming out for those. The information that we received from them were good. We shared what has been decided thus far. And then took comments from that, and that was exactly what we intended to do. So I feel like the forums were successful in terms of what our intentions were.
Thank you. I've been asked to allow Iona Pendergrass to, you know what, just not up to date. I'm sorry. Sorry, guys.
Making a statement on behalf of the merchants. We had a meeting earlier. Just wanted to share some information. We, the merchants of downtown Milledgeville, would like to declare our unanimous belief that we can in no way support a less than thorough, in fact, explicitly comprehensive parking plan that considers the perspective of all stakeholders, specifically us, the downtown merchants, but also residents of downtown and our customers. We request that all discussions of parking, whether metered, the inclusion of a parking deck, new lots, or any other change, stop until an inclusive task force can be created to facilitate discussions in order to build a plan that is mutually beneficial. We cannot support any other kind of plan, certainly not the lack of a comprehensive plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Follow up on, I just got a couple of points. This is all about money, and I'm pretty sure that if we don't have paid parking meters downtown, it's not going to change the city of Milledgeville's financial position. There are other ways to raise money. There are other ways to do stuff. I think this is all moving toward a parking deck, and that's what kind of everybody wants. Nobody can figure out how to pay for it. And I think that's exactly what my owner's point was for this plan. Now, and my second question, and this will probably go to Mr. Jordan. In the end, will this have to be voted on by council if it goes through?
Well, certain aspects of it would. Anything that requires a contractual agreement with anybody will require council's approval.
Right.
I'd just like to say that this issue has come up due to what we determined to be a parking issue in downtown Milledgeville that has existed for decades, and we're looking for solutions. And we're not. And when paid parking came up, we knew it'd be an unpopular conversation, and I think we had all agreed that we want to get input from everybody, merchants, locals, anybody that would be impacted by this. But I mean, this is our intent to try to find a solution to a problem, not to try to put unbearable situation for merchants or our public.
The appearance of the merchants from the meeting we had for the last hour and a half, that we were pulled in at the end of this situation.
We haven't made any decisions about going forward with any paid parking at this point in time.
It didn't appear that way from, and somebody said in the meeting that it was the way it was put out in the press, it sounded like it was a done deal on all the articles that were written.
I think that was the perception of the press, of the press.
Right.
And there were some unfortunate. I don't know exactly where the thought process came from especially the original article that came out. One of the misperceptions is that we've been talking about this for 2 years. And while we have discussed it very sparsely over the last 2 years, it actually came up when we first started talking about a parking deck and a private-public partnership. And then it was dropped, and we didn't even utter it for probably 6 or 8 months. It came back up, and we talked a little bit further, but we have yet to really get into real in-depth. I mean, we're not putting the cart out before the horse by any stretch of the imagination, and that is why. And there have been some articles in the paper all along. We talked about it some at a retreat that we had, and the press was there. They covered that. It was in the paper at that point in time, and yet, nobody ever says anything about it. I've never heard, and to the best of my recollection, I've never heard anybody that serves up here that has had anybody ask about it any time that it's been mentioned over the last couple of years. Certainly, when you think, certainly, if I may please, certainly, any time that something is thought to be coming to fruition, then that's when everybody does perk up and listen, and we're glad because we need feedback. We want to do anything that we do right and do it right the first time. It's difficult going back and redoing, and that's why we ask for public input. And I attended one of the meetings. Was very, very happy about the questions that were asked. Was very unhappy about the misperception of a lot of things, and that is the way when talk gets started, and you just don't hear exactly what the real truth is. And thank goodness that we had these things, and that hopefully some of this truth has come out.
I remember discussion going on about parking, but what hit me was when those paper articles had the word paid and metered was involved. That's the first time I remember that being together.
We've talked about that since before I took office in, I don't know what month it was, in 2015. We had a retreat. We were talking about possibility of paid parking, and it's just a discussion. And that came up during our debates. But bottom line is, the council is looking for solutions and trying to find a way to live a little bit more comfortable with college right downtown, and the fact that we've got merchants that need spaces. We got merchants that need spaces for their employees and their customers, and students need parking. I mean, we've got it's a three-headed snake that we're trying to tame. But no kiosk has been bought, no equipment's been bought. I think there's a bid situation that's coming out where we're looking for bids on what the equipment costs. But that's just a preliminary review to see what we're actually looking at. Excuse me?
I said cost-wise.
Yeah, a lot of rumors are out there, and sometimes that's what gets you in trouble. But yeah, you can rest assured we hadn't made any decision as a council. We've certainly been listening to options that are thrown our way, and we try to make good decisions with the information we have. And these public forums were going to be an integral piece of the puzzle as we start moving towards any solution. And I don't think this council will do anything to the detriment of downtown intentionally. I mean, we're trying to move this community forward, and rest assured that leadership is leading that direction.
We want you to know how we feel about that subject.
Well,
It was council that said we did not want to do anything or take any further steps until we heard from the merchants downtown. I mean, we don't want to do anything because we're all in it together. We trying to figure out what we can do to move forward in the best the answer to have a solution for it. And we need the input from everybody to do that.
Have you had a survey or any type of study done on the parking downtown to give us information of exactly what the problem may be?
We had a study done several years ago, but the guy that did the study actually did the study because I told him that night I didn't agree with his study. He came back with saying it was during the holidays or during the summer or something, and sure, we didn't have a problem then, but he did it at the wrong time. Right. It needed to be done, so we've got to have something else done when like the time of the year when everybody's here.
The problem makes it a lot easier to fix. Yeah.
But we did have a study done, but it wasn't a study that I felt like we needed to use because of the timing that it was done.
Hank, are you aware of any market survey or study that's been done on downtown?
Not market survey, but that's one of 3 parking files that I have. So that should be.
Oh, I know you've done the research. Yeah.
But we want you all to know that we're very proud of our downtown. It's a vibrant downtown. We get to hear that a lot as we travel, and we want to make sure that it stay that way. And to hear merchants say, not merchants, but people say that if they have to pay for parking, they're just not going to come downtown. Well, that's not going to work, because that we don't want to do anything that's going to prevent people from coming downtown.
I just say, but in the meeting over there, I've always said a customer like water. They're going to go to the path of least resistance. They go to 3 different places, about 3 same things within 50 cents of one another. They're going to go to where they can get in out of it. This is a day and time where we're hustling and bustling all day long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you've got to agree as merchants that we do have a parking problem.
I hope we always have a parking problem. If we don't, we got a bigger problem.
Well, okay.
Yeah, you're right. And we didn't have a parking problem, unfortunately, during the 80s and into the 90s.
That's right.
You could park wherever you wanted to.
With all due respect to your question, if there is a problem, we would like an independent professional company to be able to identify what that problem is. I think it's easy for us to say, yeah, we have a parking problem. But have we heard that come from someone who studies parking for a living? And that is what they do, and they're not lobbyists for parking meters. We're open to hearing from a professional parking study so we can identify the problem. And I think that's really what.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I agree.
Anything else on parking?
One thing that came out, if I may, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
That you just didn't hear too much of, but it came out loud and clear, and that was the lack of spaces. And part of And the biggest part of what we were looking at for this is to try to turn over spaces so that hopefully they would start to flip. And what we've looked at as far as, and I see you shaking your head, but what we've looked at is national statistics. We've talked to quite a few cities within the state that have done this and have done it successfully. And this is what they find is that, they have a turnover. It's not going to be 100% turnover by any stretch of the imagination. But if you free up some parking spaces, then, you end up creating spaces and at a lower cost. The one thing about that people, excuse me?
Lower cost than enforcement? Because currently...
No, lower cost of creating spaces as opposed to creating spaces in other places.
Well, I mean, as opposed to freeing up the space, we currently have a 2-hour limit anyway that's pretty loosely enforced. Would better enforcement of just that 2-hour time limit not achieve the same goal?
I don't know. We don't get the same information of it being loosely enforced.
From the parents that call me, I don't think they're loosely enforcing.
And it may be, but
we're out there every day.
Every day.
What?
They said she makes 3 rounds in an 8-hour.
They don't.
3. An 8 hour
student, and I can vouch that it is very loosely.
Right.
They're down for at least 8 hours a day.
If I could, Mr. Mayor.
You certainly may, Mr. Griffin.
These are all comments that we have in the transcribed comments that have been shared with staff.
Yeah.
We could talk them to death all night here. I'm not trying to cut anybody off. We've got these comments, and
Did merchants or customers ask you for the 15%?
Do what?
You wanted 15% turnover of parking places, I understand.
Why?
Did we ask you to do that, or did the customers ask you to do that, or you just said?
that's one of the...
Okay, that is, something
I was shaking my head at earlier because it's like, the problem you're solving.
It's not. We didn't say that. All of a sudden that we need 15% turnover. If that's what you're asking, we just
You decided to solve this problem by having a 15% turnover. Why?
I still don't follow you.
Issue to begin with. The merchants largely don't feel like we've complained too much. Have you gotten that much from other citizens? Demanding this, something happened? I guess, am I right in that we're...
Yeah, I mean, if all the problems we're going to fix parking.
It's not the merchants that complain, it's the citizens that complain.
And you know as well as I do that parking has been a paramount of a subject for decades. And it will be. You're right, until it is finally solved.
Steve, I'll say this, and I'll hush. That's why I ain't squeezed my shoulders. The change in the parking turnover to free up 15% more parking spaces, my opinion, that'll be customers that are going somewhere else. And that looks good on a statistical thing, but it look good at J.C. Grant and the Brick and the Baines Army Store because those 15% of people are seeking somewhere else to shop because they don't want a food with a kiosk.
It's the people.
Done.
The merchant. It's the people who are complaining.
You can rest assured that I don't think council's going to make any decisions without considering the wishes of the merchants and the locals. And so we're not going to be, getting behind closed doors and trying to sneak this in. We're going to be open and transparent with anything we do with regard to this. So, like I say, the rumor mill is certainly active in Milledgeville. If you hadn't heard one by lunch, you need to start one. But we understand your concerns, and we are just looking for solutions. Anything else on parking?
Have you guys consulted the college or spoken directly with President Bowman about this issue?
Yes, ma'am.
Several times.
All the time.
Those interactions.
We've got college representatives here tonight if they want to discuss that further. But this is really not the forum to discuss that. But we're open to any solution, and we have contacted Georgia College, and they've been receptive to looking into it with us. But to this point, we have not reached any kind of agreement on that. Yeah, we've reached out. No question about that.
There's quite a bit of parking that's already provided for students, but unfortunately, it's not convenient. And convenient is on Clark Street or Hancock, and until we get, I think, as far as the college is concerned, until we get to a point to where students are required to park in specific areas, like they are at other universities, then we'll continue to have the situation downtown. I saw a comment by a student that said that I already pay for parking at Georgia College. Why should I pay for it downtown? And that may be part of the problem. But as Gary said, it's a three-headed snake.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind, Kyle Colors, I work with Georgia College. The better part of this past year, Georgia College has looked at revising our comprehensive parking plan, and we did so with a task force composed of constituents from all over our university. And it was important for us that we include the city in that as well. And Griffith was kind enough and the city was kind enough to allow him the time to serve on that task force because we're reaching out to make sure that we're trying to include all the stakeholders in the plan that was put together. We, like I say, spent quite a number of months putting together the plan. Once we had a draft plan that was made up by all those representatives on that task force, we put it out there for public consumption, put it on our website. We asked for people to respond to it, to give us feedback, let us know what works, what doesn't. And we received that feedback. We tweaked the plan, made some changes based on that feedback, and then we've since implemented it. We mentioned at the time what we'd love to see is the city doing the same thing, putting together a task force to address the city parking situation that's made up of representatives from all the different stakeholder groups, downtown residents, downtown merchants, Georgia College, GMC, all the different stakeholder groups on a task force that could meet at the table together to put together a draft plan and then put that out there in front of the public for feedback on it, tweak it if needed, and then based on that, move forward with something. What we've not seen so far is a written plan. Part of our going into this and asking the city to be part of our task force was the hope and expectation that Georgia College and others would be asked to be a part of the task force. That part's never happened. So while we've had conversations, and I agree with you, Mr. Mayor, we've had conversations about it, what we haven't had is action on those conversations to put together a legitimate plan that's fully vetted that can then be supported. Because if we take that approach, it can be supported by the merchants. It can be supported by both colleges downtown. It can be supported by the downtown residents. And chances are the plan that comes out of that is not going to be the ideal for any one of those groups. It's going to be a good compromise that can be supported by all of those groups. And then the city comes out looking great with something that works well. The merchants come out looking great. All the different stakeholders. That's not happening. So, again, we've had conversations, but we haven't had action in terms of being involved.
Great point. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So I guess my question would be is the city listening to what the college has said, and when are you going to step up to the plate?
Immediately. I mean, we're having an ongoing conversation right now. If they're willing to put that on the table, we're willing to participate. No question.
I'm sure the merchants can come up with a representative to sit in on that if welcome.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. I mean, the more folks that we can have at the table to discuss this issue, the better. This is an issue that we've had conversations about over the years. You know, Mike, you and I have had these conversations. Jimmy, I don't know, we've talked about this. Adam, you know, Justin, we've all had these conversations, and that's all it's been so far has been talk. But now we're to the point where we need to take action. We need to figure out what the best way forward is. And as has been clearly stated, there are a number of stakeholders that are going to be involved in shaping this plan, which hopefully will be a long-term solution. I'd like to see us not have to worry about parking for 15 or 20 years after we find this solution for the current problem. At any rate, this is something that we're going to take our time with. We're going to be very thorough about it. And I've been listening to a lot of conversations that have been going on. I've been reading a lot of the comments that have happened online. I attended one of the forums, and there's a lot of moving pieces at work here. And somewhere in the middle of it, we're going to find a way forward through this. And we appreciate all of you coming out and voicing your opinion and being supportive of at least having this conversation.
Well said. We need to move on. Next item on the discussion for tonight is discussion on mandated cancel policy for firefighters. Is
Right, Brenda Joseph.
Brenda, can you speak to that, please?
Answer any questions.
During the last legislative session, House Bill 146 was passed that mandates that the city provide cancer coverage for all certified firefighters. Not a choice. GMA actually put together a policy that they're going to underwrite through the Hartford that's going to provide coverage to all of our certified firefighters. It has certain restrictions that are outlined in the legislation. So we need to have you approve tonight in your regular session to sign with GMA, so we'll actually insure our firefighters for them. And if you have questions, all of this stemmed from 9/11 because so many firefighters develop cancer after their exposure to when the Twin Towers fell. So it's just a way to protect the firefighters.
When would it take effect?
It goes into effect January 1.
January 1. Okay.
Yes, it will be effective January 1. And our total cost for all of our firefighters, this was specific to our census of firefighters, is a little over $3,700 a year. So it's a lot less than we thought it would have been. And if we had had to insure them individually, it would have been a lot more. We're in a risk pool with GMA and all the other cities that are in this firefighter risk pool. So, got any questions?
It sounds like the best way to go.
It was really our only option. It was the best coverage for the best price. And it meets all the requirements that the state law requires. The limits of coverage.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good explanation. At this point in time, I need a motion to amend the agenda to go into closed session for the purposes of litigation in a real estate matter.
Make a motion that we amend the agenda.
Second.
Go into a closed session.
I call for a vote.
Dr. Lee?
Aye.
Ms. Walden?
Aye.
Ms. Shinholster?
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds?
Aye.
Mr. Mullins?
Aye.
Mr. Chambers?
Aye.
Motion carries. I need a motion to go into closed session to discuss for purpose of litigation in a real estate matter.
Motion to go into closed session to discuss litigation and real estate matter.
Second.
As clerk, call the roll.
Dr. Lee?
Aye.
Ms. Walden?
Aye.
Ms. Shinholster?
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds?
Aye.
Mr. Mullins?
Aye.
Mr. Chambers?
Aye.
That motion carries. We'll retire into executive sessions for a few minutes and reconvene shortly. Thank you. Everybody in? I'd like to call the November 14th, 2017 work session back into order. Ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Dr. Lee?
Here.
Ms. Walden?
Here.
Ms. Shinholster?
Here.
Mr. Reynolds?
Here.
Mr. Mullins?
Here.
Mr. Chambers?
Here.
We did go into closed session to discuss a real estate matter and potential litigation. At this point, there being no further business on the agenda, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Hearing no objection, we stand adjourned.